welcome to the Black Sheep Props channel. I'm Steve and I'm here to teach you the tips, tools, techniques, and materials for building your very own super cool EVA foam props. Now in our last build we went sci-fi when we built Sid Mead's blaster from the sci-fi classic Blade Runner. And if you missed that build, we'll include the link in the description below to our channel's homepage so you can go over there and check out Sid Mead blaster or any of the other super cool builds we have there. Now for this build, we're going to go video game. So without further ado, Black Sheep Props would like to introduce you to the newest member of the family. Wow! Yeah! Man, I love every single one of these builds. They're so fun. Every time you think you've had enough fun, something new shows up and you have even more fun. So there it is. Check it out. It is the M3 Predator from Mass Effect. That's right. Classic. Look at that thing, man. Super jamming. 2 barrels. We've got this cool ergonomic piece of the body right here with this nice rounded top edge on both sides. A lot of shaping on this thing. We got these cool crevices in here with this double bevel on both sides going through here. Nice handle with a bunch of detail on it. A lot of little rivets all over it. These cool little vent things on the bottoms of the 2 barrels. Very nice and kind of a little bit semi-weathered. Looks a little bit aged, and it has a couple graphics on it. And but it's all easy. All the same stuff you see us do all the time. So in this episode, making an EVA foam M3 Predator, we're going to go step by step through how to make it and how to paint it. And like we said before, all the same techniques we use on all of our builds, you can totally do this. So that's it, man. I'm going to shut my pie hole. If you're ready to hit it, let's make something. Okay, we're going to start our Predator with this 24mm piece. We're going to cut it out. Alright, there we go. Now, we're going to come in with these 2 big 3mm pieces. We're going to cut these out. Okay, now we're going to take our brass tube and we're going to poke out these holes. Alright, there we go. Now we're going to be able to keep these perfect little rivets for another build. Okay, there we go. Now when you coat a really skinny piece of foam like this 2mm, sometimes it can curve, but that's okay. When it dries, it'll go down perfectly. And you know the drill with contact cement. You coat both pieces, let them completely dry, then once they dry, they can make contact. Beautiful. Now we're going to lay this down. Now, you hear us say this all the time. Don't just drop it down, okay? You're going to have to bend it, right? We lined up our Sharpie mark right there. Okay, so now we're in a good spot right here. Now we can push it down everywhere else. Go like that. Now we know right there it's going to line up with this. All right, that's going to be perfect. Okay, now these 3mm pieces are next. Okay, now these are going to come in and they're going to line up with this side right here. All right, now you've seen us do this a lot of times where this doesn't look like anything right now, but it's going to with our next step, which is going to be our cutting template. All right, so let's transfer this line over to here. Okay, there we go. Now, chances are this will not line up perfectly on both sides because it's almost impossible, but we tried to be careful and we will see what we get. So let's go over to the bandsaw and the scroll saw and let's tackle it. Okay, there we go. It's a little bit choppy on some of the edges because this was kind of tough, but it looks like we lined up pretty darn good in most of our critical spots. We got some tiny little places here where we can do little fixes like this. Everything looks pretty good. All right, we've got smooth sides now where it got kind of rough. That's looking pretty darn good. Okay, now we're going to round off the edges of our grip right there. That's pretty nice. All right, let's come in with our 220 sanding stick and let's all right, that's nice. Okay, now we're going to go from here all the way around the edge and all the way around these edges. Rounded edges here and all around these pieces. That's pretty darn clean looking. Okay, now we're going to come in with these 4mm pieces. All right. All right, there we go. Both sides, really easy, and ooh, nice fit too. Love it. Okay, now we drew this little line right here around the handle into this side. We're gonna come in with our wood burner and we're going to burn a groove right there. All right. Go right through at the same speed. Come right out the side like that. Get it lined up. There we go. Okay, now we've got these 6 pieces of 3mm foam, and we've got our lines drawn right here. We're going to cut these out, and we're going to wrap them around our handle. All right. Right there. Okay, now we've got our center marked, and we can wrap this right around our handle like that. Okay, we're going to line that up right on top of our mark like that. We're going to fold it around the side, and we're going to fold this around the side. That's a pretty cool little detail. Now we're going to do 5 more of those. All right, there we go. There's all 6. Now this is all raw foam. Let's tighten it up with some heat. See that? It tightens up and glosses over. Now this is all nice and tight right down in here. Ooh, that feels great. All right. All right, here's a little 18mm piece of foam right here. We're gonna cut out on the bandsaw. Okay, there we go, nice and thin. All right, now what we're gonna do is a little trick we've used before. We're gonna come in with some super glue on here. All right, there we go. Now, the reason we did that is because when super glue dries, it kind of puts a little bit of a shell over the surface. So that's a little bit of a thin piece of foam. So we're going to give it a little bit of extra stiffness by painting it with super glue. So we'll let that dry. Just added a little stiffness to it by painting it with super glue. Now we're going to center it. Okay, there we go. And it's kind of stiff because we painted it with super glue. All right, now we're gonna build the pieces that stack up on the back right here. That's made of a 6mm, 10mm, and some 3mm pieces. Now we're going to take our sharp little brass tube. Okay, we're going to pop out 2 more because we want 4 of those little plugs, and we'll show you why. Smooth out our super glue across our whole piece. Just like okay, there we go. Those are ready to cut, but before we cut those, we're going to come back in with these 4 super tiny little plugs. All right, there we go. Look at that. We got those tiny little plugs recessed down in here. That's a really nice little detail. We're going to knock these off on the bandsaw. Okay, there we go. We're going to attach this right in the middle, just like that. But before we do that, we're going to slightly round off the edges of these pieces. Flush with the bottom. Okay, we want it lined up perfectly right down here. And it looks like it is. Okay, there we go. Line it up flush with our edge, all the way down the side. Now we're going to come over to this side and we're going to squeeze it in. That's not bad. That is not bad at all. All right, major screw up. We were not supposed to attach this to this piece. There's going to be another piece on the top that this was supposed to have to attach onto. So we're going to have to go to the bandsaw and we're going to have to cut this off. Okay, there we go. Not a problem. All right, we're going to be attaching this later. Okay, now we're going to start making our barrels. We've got our 24mm pieces that we're going to use for our bulk of our barrels, and then we're going to be wrapping them with all of these different 3mm pieces of foam. Okay, so we're going to start with this small one first. Okay, here's our tiny little brass tube. Okay, now we're going to attach from circle to circle. All right. Now we're going to make our cut. Right there. All right, let's go knock that out on the bandsaw. All right, there we go. Pretty cool. We got the edge lined up flush. All right, now we made a little mistake over here. We accidentally cut out a second little arch right here, but what we're going to do is we're going to Dremel this and clean it up, and then we can fill in the gap with Quick Seal. All right, there we go. Now we'll be able to fill that little gap in with Quick Seal. Let's tighten it up. Pretty nice. All right, now we're going to begin doing all those same steps again, but for the big piece of the barrel. Okay, here's our 24, and we're going to cut all of these 3mm pieces out, and we're going to wrap them just like we did here. Okay, now here's the long barrel, looking good. We transferred our template over. We're going to cut this on the bandsaw. All right, there we go. Okay, and then this is going to actually cut right there at the end. That's going to go to right there. There we go. All right, there we go. That's really cool. Very. Right there. Get back here and make sure we got it centered. All right, there we go. Now, look at how cool that is. It's got this cool little overhang right here on both sides. Okay, now here's a 24mm dowel. We're going to make these 3 cuts on the bandsaw. All right. Our brass tube, and we're going to go right through it. All right. All right, let's seal it with some heat. Okay, there we go. There's our 2 barrel ends. Okay, now we've got our 10mm piece of foam. And it's going to be our sight. Let's round off the top edges. Okay, there is our sight on the front. Okay, now we're going to start building these shaped pieces on the side. We're going to start with the back piece back here. And that's going to be a 24 millimeter and some 4 millimeter. So all right, let's go ahead and cut these out on the bandsaw. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to... Okay, there we go. A little gap in the middle. Now, this is the cut we want to make. Let me show you. And right there. Okay, so we're going to have to do 4 cuts on the bandsaw. We're going to tip our table so we can send it through and cut these angled cuts. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to come down here and make our line right down the side. We're going to tip our table to cut these 2 angled cuts. Okay, there we go. We sent it through and we cut this angle and this angle. And now we're going to send it through again, but we want to cut these 2 angles. All right, there we go. Look at that. We've got flat bottom, flat side, then we've got an angle here, an angle here, and an angle here. All right, so that is going to come in and go just like this. Ooh, that's pretty darn nice. Pretty. Okay, now we're going to take these 18 millimeter pieces and we're going to knock these out on the bandsaw. Okay, now we're going to come in with our Dremel and we're going to bevel this edge all the way around. All right, now we've got our 220 sanding stick. We're going to come in and just hit that edge a little bit. All right, there we go. Now let's tighten it up with some heat. There's a set of them with beveled edges all the way around the whole thing. Okay, now we're going to finish the rest of our side pieces, and this is going to be layered up. We've got 3 millimeter, 12 millimeter, and another 3 millimeter, because that's exactly the thickness we want. And now, before we stick all those together, we're going to cut these little oval shapes out first. Okay, now we went ahead and we shortened these a little bit. We don't want them quite that long. Get this as close to our Sharpie marks as we can. Okay, now we're going to cut these outer shapes out on the bandsaw. Okay, there we go. This side where the arrows are is the bevel. This side with the arrows is the bevel. These big top sides are going to be where it's really getting shaped. All right, so got our gloves on. Let's get a dust mask on and let's hit it. Okay, there we go. We've got the bevel on this side. Now, here comes the scary part. We're going to come in with the rough bit. We've got our two inner bevels. We've got our curved top. We're going to lay this down. We're going to strike a line across the top, just like that. All right, so now we can match up exactly where our angle has to be. Oh, that's pretty darn close. Wow, I like it. All right, that is pretty nice. That is a really great shape right there. Okay, now we've got these 4 little dots. We're going to come in with our thin bit and our Dremel, and we're going to make a little rivet mark on all 4 of those spots. Okay, now this line right here, we're going to slice this thing right through the middle. Okay, good grief. What did we do that for? Because we're going to slightly round these edges, so when we put it back together, there's a nice crease in the middle. Make a crease right through that line. Right there. Okay, now we're going to heat seal this to tighten all the foam up, and when we tighten it up, it's going to open this crease. All right, there we go. Give it a minute. Right. Right there and right there. All right. Look at that. That is so cool. We've got the 2 bevels right in here where they meet all the way around. We split it here and rounded the edge to make it look like 2 pieces. We've got the crease in here, some little rivets. We've got our little recess. That is pretty slick, man. I am loving that. And you saw how easy it was to shape this. Totally easy. All right, now let's see. Down here at the bottom, got a slight bump here where it doesn't line up perfectly. So we're going to come in and clean that up. All right, we're going to come in with our 80 grit sanding stick. Let's come in here with our 220. Let's try to smooth this out just a little bit. All right, let's tighten it up. All right, dig that. Look at those 2 sides. Almost identical and super easy. All right, we took a 10mm piece of foam. We just hand drew a trigger, just like that. We cut it out on the bandsaw, and then... All right, there we go. We've got our mark. We're gonna come in with some super glue on the bottom of our trigger. Sweet, look at that. Fits right on there perfectly. All right, there we go. That was super easy, putting the trigger on there. This whole thing was pretty easy. Even the part that seems really difficult, this whole section right here with the shaped top and the bevels, you saw it. That was pretty darn easy. A lot of work, but nothing on here was really that hard. Okay, that's it with that last detail, popping a handmade trigger on there. that brings the build portion of our M3 Predator to a close. Okay, here we are out at the spray stand. We're going to begin coating our M3 Predator with our Plastidip. And you know what we always say, even if you're outside in a well-ventilated area, do not spray without your respirator. All right, there we go. It's all coated. Some of it's already drying. That's why we're able to hold it, but you saw how easy that was. Take your time, do nice even sprays. Don't hit it real hard so it pools up. Nice even layers. You gotta use the wide fan to cover most of it, then you gotta turn it sideways to use the skinny part of the spray to get inside some of the crevices. But that's it. Take your time. Don't overspray it. Build up your layers. We're gonna hang it up now and let it dry before we paint it. Okay, here we go. Now this should be a really super easy paint job, okay? We're coming in with our sterling silver. And we're just gonna tap with our sponge brush like we do all the time. Okay. All right, look at that. That's really nice how it leaves dark in a lot of the crevices, and we're not completely coating it, okay? We're leaving it a little bit thin so you can see it's kind of like blotchy in some spots, which gives it that nice steel look. And we're gonna... All right, love that darkness in the crevices. That's really giving us our first layer of our dirt and our weathering. Okay, now there's a couple little spots where we couldn't reach with our sponge brush, so we're going to get our regular brush. And we're going Nice. All right, that's super easy. All right, now we're coming in with our satin black. Just like that. We don't really need to tape anything off. Cutting in, just like that up against the edge, and then filling in just like this. All right, now notice the difference in the black. Huge difference between the Plastidip black and our acrylic paint. Much richer with the acrylic paint. Okay, so now just take your time, go around both barrels, cut it. Okay, there we go. We've got both our barrels completely covered. All right, that easy. We cut in all around our silver parts, did our barrels, did our handle, did our trigger. Okay, now we're gonna make a couple little masks. Actually, some little stencils that we need for some graphics on the side of this thing. All right, so we're gonna come in with our modeling tape. Just like okay, now we're going to cut the openings out. Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay, there we go. Now we come in with our titanium white. Got our little white sponge. Now we're going to come in and we're going to tap. Now we don't want to tap too solid because we want it to look a little bit worn out. Okay, there's one there. And our little tiny graphic back here. Okay. Nice. All right, now we're coming in with our wrought iron. That's a dark gray that's got kind of a little bit of a blue tint in it. That's got a nice look, really subtle, all right? We're just breaking up our black with our wrought iron. So there's gray patches and then black. And when it... Okay, that's really subtle, but when you look at it up close, you can see where the tone changes from gray to black. That's just enough to give the black metal sort of an oxidized feel. Okay, now we're going to come in with our silver. Hit along the edge. Just like that. Just to start to give some scratched edge look to it. Just like that. Alright, there's all these are front edges. Beautiful. That is a tight looking little set of scratch marks right there. Just go over the whole piece and do that on fronts. Okay, those look good all along the front edges. See that? Real tiny little details on front edges is just enough to give it that nice look of scratched bits. Okay, now we're going to take our silver and our acid brush, right? We're going to dip it in. We're going to get most of it off. Okay, then we're going to come in and we're going to hit right on these edges. All right, there we go. That's a really nice little look. We've got this light scratching. All right, there we go. That is a really nice effect. Came in and hit all these little front edges with scratches. Just enough to give it that nice damaged look. Look at that. That's really sweet. And all right, so that was it. You saw the whole paint job. Super easy. Super, super easy. The whole thing was brushed. We came in with our sponge brush and we got all of our silver on here and we left a bunch of dirty crevices, which the sponge brush naturally does, and then we didn't solid cover here. We left it kind of a little bit blotchy. That helps with the aged look. And then you saw us come in and we brushed on all the black. Really easy. We didn't have to mask anything off. Came in with some wrought iron and dabbed around the gray everywhere just to give it that oxidized feel. Cut a couple simple templates there and sponged on our white, left it a little broken up so it feels weathered. And then you just saw our final treatment with a regular brush, hitting on some of the edges with silver and then coming in with a dry brush and doing some dry brush little swiping on here that gives it that nice feel. So that's it. As usual, pretty easy stuff. So with that last detail, putting on the little silver scratches, that brings our M3 Predator build to a close. Alrighty, there we go. Super easy as usual. And like we said before a couple times, same exact techniques we use on everything. You use the same techniques over and over and over again, and that's about it, man. You saw how easy the paint job was. We sponge brushed on all the silver, which left all the darkness and the crevices, because it naturally does that, which helps give it that aged look. And we don't cover the paint coat solid. We leave it a little bit broken up so you can see kind of patches of the dark through it, which helps it look like aged steel. And then we came in and we brushed in all of our black on the barrels and on the handle and the trigger. And then we came in and started doing our detail work, which was our wrought iron that we dabbed all over the black to start to give it that kind of oxidized feel. And came in with our little template, made a couple little quick templates to do our graphics on the side. They turned out great, and they look a little bit aged because we didn't fill them in solid. And you can make it as banged up looking as you want. You could have barely put any white in those and made it really look like it's been on there for a while and worn off. So it's up to you, man. It's your deal. And then the final detail, which I love, is the scratching. We came in with a silver brush and hit some of the edges, then came in with our acid brush and got a little bit of a dry brush deal happening on there, and gives it those nice little wispy scratches that look kind of legit. And again, you can do as much or as little as you want. We kind of did medium on this one. So, wow, this thing fits in your hand perfect too. Love this thing. Alright, that concludes making an EVA foam M3 Predator. Hope you liked it. If you did, give us a like, share us with a friend, and subscribe to this channel. And together we're going to go step by step through a lot more super cool builds so that you get the props you deserve. Thanks for coming. See you next time.